We're here with Nana Murugesan, president of Matter Labs, a former vice president of business development at Coinbase. Nana, it's great to be chatting. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Camila. Great to be chatting with you.
So, let's start with what's the latest in the ZKsync land?
I mean, just very quickly, ZKsync, we're not just a layer 2 solution. We're really solving the scalability problem and more, a lot more, which we'll talk about, while preserving Ethereum's core values of decentralization and security. That's just a quick one-liner on ZKsync. And what's really new in ZKsync is our elastic chain vision. We're very excited about the elastic chain that we recently launched. We believe that this is the scalable infrastructure that will provide the next generation of decentralized applications. You know, there's been so much talk recently about infrastructure, especially in Ethereum land. Just talk about infrastructure, but we feel like we should really be focusing on what consumers want. We really should be focusing on doubling down on developers who are building real use cases for real problems that need to be solved. And so that's what the elastic chain is all about, is how can we build this internet of value? How can we create a unified user base, unified liquidity, so that we can power this next generation of decentralized applications that are solving like real use cases. And there's just a lot of progress. We're going to have almost a dozen chains that come on mainnet with elastic chain by the end of the year.
Wow. Okay, so is this separate to the ZKsync's layer 2?
So ZKsync has gone through an evolution. Maybe I'll give you a quick update on that. In 2021, we launched ZKsync 1.0, which was very much focused on payments. It's like a payments L2. And then last year, 2023, we had ZKsync 2.0, which was more of the ZKsync, is the first ZK EVM in the industry. And then just a few months back, we launched ZKsync 3.0, which is effectively the elastic chain, which I talked about. And so on ZKsync, the elastic chain, one of the ZK chains is ZKsync Era, which is out there. So you might be referring to that. We also have Chronos, which is Crypto.com's on-chain strategy. And so that's also on mainnet. And we have a lot of exciting chains coming on mainnet very soon, like Pudgy Penguin's Abstract Chain, Lens, which is decentralized social. So a lot of these things are coming on mainnet. So it's no longer ZKsync Era, but in the elastic chain, it's ZKsync Era plus a lot of other chains, which are these developers that I was talking about building for real use cases, putting user first.
Okay, super interesting. So it seems like the layer 2 ecosystem is trending towards this phase where each project has its own layer 2 or its own chain. And with ZKsync, that's happening within the elastic chain with the Crypto.com and Chronos and the dozen other chains that are set to launch. And the same is happening with Optimism, with their super chain. We had Kraken launch on kind of in the Optimism ecosystem recently. So it's just it's an interesting shift. I love your thoughts on why it seems like it's making sense, or you know why this is happening, that each company or each protocol now seems to prefer to have their own chain rather than build on like a more general purpose layer 2.
Yeah, a couple of ways to answer this. First of all, I completely share your sentiment that we have too much infrastructure going on. And so but rather we need to really focus on user first. What are the problems that we are actually solving? And that's what's going to be most important for the industry. So I think I definitely share that. To your question around why is everybody building a chain? I think it's okay, because just like the current internet doesn't sit on a single server, it's okay for the next generation of the internet, which we call the internet of value, to not sit on a single blockchain. It's okay. I mean, that's the world we live in right now. And so the world we are going to evolve into, it's okay to have multiple blockchains. I think everybody can figure out what is the best way they want to have a relationship with their users. And we are embracing that, because some may want public, permissionless, some may want private, permissioned, and there are very good reasons why people may want to build their blockchains in a certain way. Governments may want it to be compliant. So what we are embracing is 3 C's over here, which is customizable, compliant, and collaborative. So we believe that everybody is going to have a different definition of what this is, and they might spin up a blockchain based on that, and that's okay. What we are focused on with Elastic Chain is that we have to embrace that this world of Web3 is not going to be a one-size-fits-all. We have to really focus on interoperability. We have to focus on building a world where all of these different blockchains can seamlessly interoperate with each other, whether it's 2 banks that can do business with each other, which then unlocks so many more opportunities for users and financial institutions to scale with Web3. And these banks and enterprises, they can choose which ones they want to interact with and for what use cases. That's why they need their own chain. Similarly, for consumer use cases, it could be the same. So again, that's one thing I wanted to add as it relates to why is everybody spinning up their own chain, and what is our thinking beyond that, which is we have to just embrace it, just like we embraced it in Web 2. That Web 2 doesn't run in a single server. Why should Web 3 run on a single chain?
Yeah, I guess, I always thought that, you'd have a layer 2, and then companies and projects can build on that layer 2 and, customize their dApp sure. in whatever way they want, but that it wouldn't need like a whole separate chain for that. What exactly does a separate chain within a layer 2 allow companies and projects to do that they can't do on building directly in a more generalized layer 2?
Yeah, I think even if you look at what we have, right? Like we have a stack, right? And so what you are saying is exactly what's happening, right? Which is you don't want people to be worrying about building on the stack and like dealing with all those infrastructure stuff. Like what we want folks to really think about is like a chain that solves the use cases, right? Like so it's a stack strategy where we are providing the stack, which creates interoperability, and then our partners can decide whether they want to build on our L2, which is ZKsync Era, or whether they want to build their own chain. But from a user perspective, it should all look invisible, by the way. That's what's more important. Just like Web 2, the user doesn't know which server things are running on. It looks very seamless. This is the fundamental problem we have in Web 3 is right now for the user, it looks so fragmented and complicated. And so what we are working on is how do we create that seamless user experience where someone can be playing a game on Treasure, which is a ZK chain, or they take out a loan on Aave, which is on ZKsync Era, and go do something else. And it should look very, very seamless for the user. They shouldn't know where they are going and all that type of stuff, right? Like, so again, that's the way, I'm looking at it is for a user, it should look very seamless. And we should provide the underlying technology.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering kind of why this shift to like everyone has a chain. Just trying to understand like what can projects get by having their own chain that they can't get by just like building on, say, like ZKsync era.
Okay, great question. So a good example could be someone who may want to build a more private and permissioned chain. Because a lot of the chains are like public and permissionless, but there are certain use cases, particularly for financial institutions, by the way. You are right. I do want to acknowledge that you are right that I don't think everybody should be building their own chains, but hey, you know, people do what they have to do, but I agree with you. But I do want to say that not everybody can just build on a single general purpose chain and achieve whatever they want. There are certain use cases like identity, special use cases that require very private, more permission type of environments. And we acknowledge that, particularly in the world of TradFi, that you might need some of those things. So that's why what we are creating is a world where there is interoperability between public permissionless and private permissioned, because these are two completely different type of chains.
Protocol 20 introduces Soroban, which is Stellar's cutting-edge smart contracts platform. This creates new surface area for innovation and provides new opportunities for developers to build protocols and products that create access to everyday financial services. So it means a gradual increase in transaction capacity and a chance to fine-tune applications. And it's the most transformative upgrade to the Stellar network to date. Woohoo!
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then for projects who are deciding where to build, what's special about ZKsync or like the Elastic chain?
Yeah, several things actually. One is the concept of ZK itself, zero knowledge. Mm-hmm. I think it is widely understood that ZK is going to be the end game. It is going to be the way future-proof technologies are going to be built. This is like largely understood, and we can talk about it as well. But generally, Vitalik talks about it. You know, everybody talks about how ZK, zero knowledge, and I'm not talking about ZKsync here, but just broadly, zero knowledge itself is like the ideal technology to deliver on Ethereum. There's just so much activity going on in zero knowledge, from venture funding to top tier, high quality projects building on this. So there's something about funding and top people working on something, and just a wide understanding that this is the future-proof technology that is going to deliver the scaling requirements for millions of developers and billions of users, right? So that's called that zero knowledge. Why zero knowledge proofs are so important, right? And specifically about ZKsync, first reason why someone should build on ZKsync is because of the Elastic chain, where we are focused on interoperability. We believe we are going to be the first in the industry, and we've already gone out there and said we're going to deliver this by end of the year. So even though a lot of people are talking about interoperability, we believe we are going to be the first to actually deliver it. And we plan to do that by end of the year. Show, not tell. So that's one reason why we believe someone should choose ZKsync. Another reason is security. This is super important. Ethereum has those values of security. We have embraced security at the very core. And we feel like for use cases that are fast emerging, like tokenization on the TradFi side, this is going to be very important, because when tokenization goes fully on-chain, the regulatory frameworks are going to demand a pretty high level of institutional grade security for, DeFi protocols and things like that. So security is going to be very essential. And that's why ZKsync's security features, where transaction correctness is validated and settled near instantaneously versus up to 7 days on other chains, are going to really help us stand out. So that's the second reason. The third reason is something that's in the work, which is throughput. As you know, current credit card payments, the current traditional finance system can handle tens of thousands of transactions per second, but no blockchain in its true sense, even though people talk about it, but in a true sense can support that kind of throughput. So ZKsync, through the succinctness of ZK proofs, will help us deliver that level of throughput. So how can we kind of upgrade the current financial system if we can't even deliver the throughput requirements of the current financial system, right? Like, so that's another reason why we believe someone should choose ZKsync.
And that throughput at at a very low cost as well, because that really matters, obviously.
100%. I think great question, actually. Let's talk about cost. Again, cost is in the works, but conceptually, this is the way ZKsync works, right? When a lot of others talk about cost, it means that when transaction goes up, right, cost is low, but it's still a percentage of it, right? Which means it's both going up like this, right? Like, I don't know if you're able to see it's almost like I'm trying to visualize like the way, revenues and costs look like maybe, right? But for ZKsync, it's going to be like this, meaning flat, low cost. Very, very big difference between just saying low cost as a proportion versus saying flat, low cost, meaning scaled throughput, where throughput keeps increasing, but the costs are flat and low and keeps going down, which is going to be another massive differentiation. Not a very big differentiation right now because throughput is low, so it's not a big deal. But when throughput goes to that scale of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, that flat, low cost is going to be a massive differentiator, and that's a big area of our focus.
Great. Okay, so interoperability is a big one, but right now I think users are struggling with interoperability. Well, yes. I guess just being able to transact across different layer 2s and then back to Ethereum main chain. I mean, I feel it myself as a user. It's such a huge pain, and I consider myself pretty, crypto native. For anyone who's not used to this, it's just no way they're gonna be able to get over that hurdle. So how do we get there? Because I don't think we can expect users to choose one ecosystem over the other 100%. Like, these things exist. There will be activity in all of these different layer 2 ecosystems. So is there a future where there is true seamlessness between all of these ecosystems, and how far are we from there?
You are so right. This is actually the biggest pain point that I see for the industry. Because what we are doing is, this is kind of called shipping, exposing all the things that's going on in the infrastructure layer to the end consumer, which is actually coming in the way of mainstream adoption of crypto. It is so complicated. This is where I think we need to learn a big lesson from Web2. I come from the world of Web2 too. I was at Snapchat, where we had almost 1 billion. We have almost 1 billion monthly active users, and almost 500 million daily active users. And same thing with Meta and Google, right? We need to learn a lesson from the Web2 world and make sure that the current clunkiness of UX is an industry problem. The industry needs to embrace that UX is not working right now for the crypto users, in which case our industry is suffering and it's not going to achieve the mainstream adoption that we all want. So the solution that I see is that there needs to be some kind of industry level collaboration. Even if there are different chains and different stacks, it's okay. Competition is a good thing. There needs to be some kind of industry level collaboration around things like account abstraction, seamless UX, we see some signs of that, but there's just so much work to do there. So that's where I would nudge ourselves and other participants in the industry to work together and take UX as a collective problem that we need to solve if we want to bring 1 billion people into crypto.
Yeah, to me, it's frustrating because it's so obvious that the thing, how it stands currently, is just like unacceptable UX.
100%.
And I see like people just like unable to see it, and they're like, no, it's fine. Like, I don't hear anyone talking about UX. And I'm like, how? Like, I don't know who you're talking to, but it's real. Like, the problem is real.
Yeah. And Camila, I'll tell you, and you can ask folks that I talk to, I'm like a broken record talking about this internally and with our partners. So maybe I'll do more of that. Like, please encourage others you talk to do more of that. I think generally people agree with it, but I do think we need to talk more about it because that surfaces the problem. And hopefully we can accelerate efforts to do something about it. But yeah. I agree that UX is probably the single biggest reason why crypto is struggling to achieve mainstream adoption.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think what you said about just like industry collaboration is key, because you have important technical developments like account abstraction, but they mean nothing if, all of the wallets agree on adopting this. Because like, okay, this thing exists, but like not everyone is using it. Like there are like different EAPs in the work, and sure, like they get shipped, but then they're meaningless if all the different dApps and wallets, continue doing the same thing because they're scared their users aren't going to migrate or whatever. So yeah, it takes like so much coordination, I guess. Like I'm not sure what the right way forward is.
Yeah, because Another way forward, one is industry collaboration. Another way forward that I see is also government participation. We just announced a very exciting partnership with the government of Buenos Aires, which is now going to scale to Argentina and then to parts of Latin America. I noticed, are you from Chile, by the way?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there. It was great. I've spent like a few weeks in Chile, in Patagonia, hiking there. Beautiful country. But I'm actually super excited about Latin America. And we are hyper-focusing our efforts on Latin America, starting with Buenos Aires. And so what we announced this week is that we have partnered with the government, and we have just launched the world's first ZK-backed digital identity platform to 3.6 million eligible citizens in Buenos Aires through the integration of Quark ID, which is a ZKsync powered identity solution into the government's MIBA platform. And so again, Quark ID, just a little bit of a background, is a decentralized open source digital public good that offers digital identity. And what this is going to do is this is going to give the government the ability to hand off ownership of digital credentials to the residents. So whether this is driver's license, marriage certificates, birth certificates, so on and so forth, the government is effectively, by moving this on-chain, is transferring control and empowerment of this very much around citizen empowerment. And I'm so excited because this is such a good example of the government empowering its citizens through crypto. And I feel like these are also going to be things that's going to move the industry forward as governments embracing it. So both participants within the industry collaborating with each other on things like UX, but also the government encouraging its citizens and empowering its citizens through efforts like Quark ID. And we're very excited about this partnership in Latin America.
Hey everyone, I'm Ilya, and I'm inviting everyone to Bangkok, November 9 to 11.
You've been duped into thinking anything decentralized was ever gonna work. There's a better way. Stop wasting your time with all this blockchain and go back to the norm. Get a latte and stop trying to change the world. Oh, and this thing in November, Redacted, the hackathon, they're cushy office jobs out there, Everything is working as it should.
For our special event, Redacted. We're going to dive into AI, we're going to dive into Web3, chain abstraction, decentralization, and user-owner AI. I'll see you there.
No, yeah, we covered it, and I think it's amazing. It's so fascinating how the Buenos Aires government is adopting a truly, crypto native solution to its documents, because I think there's like one strategy is, for governments to try to impose their own token or their own, like private chain or like CBDCs or like all these things, or the obvious way is through regulation, but I think it's great to see a government adopting a tool that's kind of grassroots. I mean, that was born in crypto, and they're not trying to fit something that wasn't made inside of the industry. So I think that was so great to see, and I'm curious to see what kind of use cases come out of this. I mean, I think it just opens up the door to so many interesting possibilities, having all of these government certificates on chain. I mean, what it can do to decentralized identity is an obvious one. So yeah, I think super exciting times.
Yeah, thank you. And you really framed this really well, very well put. I'm very excited about it. I hope you will encourage Chile. Maybe that next, we're hoping to see how this carries through beyond Buenos Aires into Argentina and potentially other parts of Latin America. But to your question, right, some of the feedback that we have got from Argentinians in Buenos Aires is that this is going to help verifying education for job interviews. Apparently, it's like a very complicated process, takes a long time, and that kind of creates a lot of delays in the job process. So by verifying the app education, companies can verify education instantaneously on the blockchain. That just makes it like, if you clear the interview, your education is verified like within seconds, right? That's pretty cool. The other thing that we have heard from citizens is that they've always worried about having their ID and password and worrying about carrying them, worrying about losing them. And now this Quark ID allows them to have their ID and passport securely stored on their phone. So that gives them huge peace of mind. One more thing that we have heard is that I think this is even true for me. I don't know if this is true for you too, right? I actually, if you were to ask me, Nana, where's your birth certificate? I actually don't know where it is. I don't know, but I always fear the date where someone is going to ask me to send a birth certificate. I don't know. And whenever I've had to do this in the past, it's been like searching my, documents and drawers to go find out where this birth certificate is. And so another thing that we've heard is that everything, all these official documents from birth certificate, marriage certificate, essential documents, everything is going to be on the phone, secure and accessible. And so this shows the power of ZK proofs and ZKsync, because this level of security can only be provided through ZK technology and ZKsync. So for these type of use cases, at the very core of the things that are most important to you, right? Because now we're getting into the more serious world of crypto, right? This is no longer like some of the fun use cases, right? But these are like very serious stuff that we hold very important. And I'm very excited to see what other use cases emerge out of Quark ID beyond some of the things that I just mentioned.
How composable is this?
It's something that is. Can you tell me more about like what do you mean by the question?
Would people be able to plug these documents into other dApps or?
Yeah, that's the plan. So just to give you an example, right? Like we are working with Lemon Cash, which you might know is a very, very important player there. And so that's the idea, is to make it very, very, very convenient for dApps. Like I mentioned earlier, right? Like our philosophy with Elastic Chain is creating that unified shared user base, liquidity, information. So unless something it's like really carved as totally private and permissioned or something, these things are going to be quite accessible to each other and in a very seamless way. And we're also doing a lot of work, which hopefully when the time is right, we can share with you around UX and how we are going to be enabling developers on the Elastic chain to make that quite simple and seamless. So, but yes, what you said is absolutely part of our vision.
Awesome. Cool. And then to wrap up, what's next for ZKsync? I mean, I know you talked about the dozen or so chains that are coming live by the end of the year in the Elastic chain. Maybe you can hint at, who some of these projects will be, or like what are some of the big milestones that you're working towards?
Yeah. So some of the projects that we can hint at is Pudgy Penguins, their abstract chain that should be coming soon. We have Lens, which is decentralized social. We already have Aave on Era. So we, in the Awara family, we have Aave that's on Era, and then we have Lens that's going to be a ZK chain, and we're having discussions on like how we kind of graduate folks from ZKsync Era to becoming a ZK chain. For some, it makes sense. For some, it doesn't. This goes to your earlier question. We work with folks. We also are very, very excited about Treasure DAO, which just switched over from Arbitrum to ZKsync. So that was great. We have one more major gaming platform coming soon, which hopefully in the next couple of weeks, you'll see some news on that. So consumer and gaming is really, really, we are seeing a lot of traction because the creator economy is just ripe for crypto. Mm-hmm. Because of the way value sharing works in Web 2 versus Web 3, it's much better. And so a lot of action on consumer and gaming. We are also working with some institutions. And so you'll see something coming up there too. And of course, like I mentioned, Quark ID is going to be a very important part of our Elastic chain strategy. We want to be the chain of choice for the entire region of Latin America. So there's a lot of work that we are doing there so we can focus on that region. So you're going to hear more about that too. So that's on more the partnership side. On the technology side, obviously we need to really focus on ZKsync Era as well as other ZK chains as part of Elastic chain. So getting more on mainnet. Our North Star goal is builder success. So our goal is how successful these chains are going to be in their goals. So we really want to hyper focus on not just signing deals, getting chains on a testnet and then on a mainnet, but what we really care about is what happens after mainnet. What is the actual value that goes to the end user? What is the actual value that goes to the developer, and how are we actually helping the industry overall, right? This Web 2 to Web 3. So I think that is going to be, I would say, the most important focus. So there's a lot of work. But some of the announcements that you might see is around helping with UX that I mentioned, right? Like how can we help those who are building on Elastic Chain create that seamless user experience for the end user and make that better. So some of those type of things you might hear from us in the coming weeks.
Awesome. Super exciting, Nana. Thank you so much for joining me. This was great. I appreciate it.
No, appreciate it, Camila. Thanks for your time and hope to see you sometime.